Hi, I grew up in northwest Georgia, a long way from the ocean, of course. But my uncle had a dairy, and so when I got tall enough, I went to work for him. But my first experience when I was about 10, and the way that dairy works, in case you don't know, is mama cows produce milk for their babies. And in order to get the milk for people, we separate them from their babies, and we raise the babies on artificial milk. Now, dairy cows in general are quite docile, but sometimes the mothers take exception about you trying to take away their baby when it is first born. And I had climbed into the Jeep with my uncle and my two cousins, who were also about 10 years old. We climbed in the back of his old Jeep, and the dog came along, like dogs always do. And we went and found the calf, and my uncle picked it up and put it in the back of the Jeep. And the mother took exception, and the mother decided it was the dog's fault. Oh. And so she started getting after that dog. And the dog wanted no part of a fight with the cow. And so the dog jumps up into the back of the Jeep where we three kids are. And the mama cow comes into the Jeep too. And let me tell you, there's not right back there. For three kids and a calf and a mama cow. But my uncle thought fast. And as he was driving away, he threw the dog back out of the Jeep. And so now the mama's got, something else to focus on. And forget everything you know about 7 maids milking, or people squatting around on stools, pumping their udders. It doesn't work that way. The way our barn was set up was there was a pit in the middle, and the cows would come in on the side, and so their udder would be about chest high, so you had easy access to it. Now cows they like routine, and they need to be milked. So the way it worked was on one side we would open the gate, 6 cows would come up to 6 little mangers, and you would take some warm water and you would wash their udders, and then you would hook them up to an electric milking machine. In the meantime, the other side of the barn, you let in 6 more cows, and you would prepare them, while these were milked. Now the cows did not, they rarely kicked or anything like that, but they did find it a little bit annoying that you would be, squeezing on their private parts, and they would swish their tail, back and forth at you. And here's the worst part of the job, I think. Imagine it is winter, and it is raining outside, and cows, poop and pee whenever they want to. And the cows would come in and you would get a tail across the face. Oh. Wet, cold, and dirty. And I think some of the cows took a wicked pleasure in whacking you in the face with it. And then you let those cows out and you let 6 more on each side. The milking crew usually is 3 people, sometimes 2. And it was a mix of black people and white people, mostly men, and some women. But one interesting thing I noticed was if I was talking to one of the black workers directly, they could understand me and I could understand them very well. But if they were talking to each other, if one was on one side of the barn and one was on the other side of me, and they were talking to each other, I had no idea what they were talking about. One other aspect of the job was to collect hay bales and take them to the barn. And we would go out with a big flatbed truck And it had these big old mirrors on the cab, and they had a triangle, mount. And you'll see why that's important. And there would be one driver, there would be 2 or 3 guys picking up hay bales, throwing them onto the back, and there would be one person that would be the stacker. And his job was to get the bales, nice and tight, nice and high, so you wouldn't have to make so many trips back to the barn. And I was a stacker, and I thought I was good at it. And we were out one day and we were stacking the bales, and I was stacking those things tight. And I was stacking them high. And when we got ready to go back to the barn, I said, I'm going to ride up there on top of my stack because I am so proud. And everyone knows what follows pride. And the driver went around a curve a little bit too quickly, and those hay bales and I tumbled off the top. And I fell such that my leg went into that triangle of the mirror, and I am hanging upside down. Fortunately, it did not break my leg, but I had to hang there in this ignominious position until the rest of the crew could quit laughing long enough to help me get down. The thing that was a nice perk about this job was that my family was allowed to come and get milk out of the big cooler. And it was, so we would come over there with the jug, fill it up, take it on, blah, blah. And I went over there one evening. It had gotten dark. And I was unconcerned because I knew where the light switch was. And I'd been in that room a dozen of times. But as I was going around the tank to where the light switch was, I could hear all this scurrying. And I didn't think that much about it until I turned on the light, and 30 rats head for the exit. And my thought was, good God, what if I had stepped on a rat in the dark? I would have probably had a heart attack. But one of my fondest memories of the job was we milked the cows twice a day, and we started in the mornings about 4:30, and then we did it again in the afternoon. But one of my fondest memories was when it would get to be about 6:30, you would see the sun start to peek over the horizon, and you know it was time to let that last group of cows in, and then clean up the barn and go home for a hot breakfast. And that was my first job.